We'll get started. It's recording now. So, what you got to talk about this week, Holly?
Well, I have a new client to share.
Is it an adult or okay?
And she is, mentality-wise, I would say she's about 15. She's actually about to be 22. 2 children, does not have custody of either one. She gets her youngest on the weekends. And I've been with her like 2 or 3 times now to pick him up. And of course, I transport to babysit. She's not a very soothing parent. Her parenting style is something that I don't agree with. But we're still in that new phase of getting to know each other and finding the appropriate ways to talk to her because she has been known to fire counselors just because they differ on opinion. I need the hours.
How long have you been seeing her for? You said she's new.
About a month and a half. So new-ish.
Uh-huh.
Usually by now I would say the rapport has been built and we're doing great things, but it's a slow process. I only see her twice a week and I do that on purpose. Mostly because I kind of hate her.
Okay.
I mean, if we're being honest, it's not that I hate her, it's I hate what she expects of the service. I don't know if her previous counselor, who is no longer with the company I'm with, if she allowed this type of behavior, but so day one, I picked this client up, and she has a personal Bluetooth speaker, about, normal size for a portable speaker. And she's playing the most obscene and offensive music I've ever listened to in my entire life. I get down with rap music with everybody else. It's great music if listened to appropriately. But this was dropping the N-word every 5 seconds, talking about beating women, raping, just treating women as like your personal property. I don't agree with that.
Was she black or white
She's
or?
Caucasian, but
Okay.
she has a preference for African American men, which is totally fine. Her son is mixed. He's the cutest little boy, and I hate the way she treats him. He was in my back seat the first time I picked him up, and he was screaming because he wanted her, but she was up in the front seat beside me looking at her phone. So I'm driving down 460 trying to calm this kid down because my maternal instincts kicked in and was like, listen, this little boy obviously needs some kind of need met, but she's not willing to meet that need. I'm going to see what I can do. Plus, having a screaming 2-year-old in my back seat while I'm trying to drive is not exactly the safest thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm sitting there trying to calm him down, talk to him, just get him involved. Of course, he doesn't know me. This is the first time this kid's met me. So he's not really interested in anything that I have to say. The second time we picked him up, she's done a little bit better, but he constantly asks, where's mommy?
Where are you picking him up from?
We meet in Bedford.
Okay.
Because I don't know if foster parent is the correct word, but I think maybe guardian that has him over the week, it lives in Roanoke. So that's kind of the halfway point. And the guardian wants somebody to actually make their way out to Bedford every week to pick him up, but I have said that I can't do that every week. Her work schedule varies. She usually gets off around 3. On Fridays, it's flex days most of the time. She goes in, I think, at 5. So she can work on Friday for extra money, or she can choose not to. Most of the time, she chooses not to, which is when we tend to go pick up her little boy like we're doing this Friday. But in between those appointments to go get her son, this is where the hatred or dislike, actually, I can't say hatred because I don't hate anybody.
A strong dislike.
Very strong dislike comes into play, and I've actually talked about this with my direct supervisor, and she and I don't see eye to eye on this. She feels as if all this driving that I'm doing with this client in the car, we can be productive with each other by talking things out. We can't work on the budget when we're driving. I can't use my calculator while I'm driving down the road. I'm not able to sit down and help you write stuff out, which is something that I do with my other adult client. We keep a monthly budget planner,
which we've talked about before.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, she doesn't necessarily stick to it all the time, but it's something that I can put in my notes and verify, hey, we did this. Like, I'm actually doing a service with this person.
And it's an easy review because you can literally pull it out and go over it with her.
Hey, this is what you said you were going to spend on this month. How much did you actually spend at the end of the month?
Right.
So with this client, it's becoming obvious that I think the other counselors that she's ever worked with, just given her wins of, I mean, on one particular occasion, I stopped at 7 different places with her. 7. Now, mind you, I have a very high mileage car. I mean, most of 200,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the one responsible for the oil changes and the new tires. And if my car decides one day, hey, 200,000 plus miles is too much, we're just going to blow up and not work anymore, then I'm the one stuck with the car payment.
Or it could happen when you're with her.
And then we're stuck on the side of the road.
Yep.
So I kind of broke it down for her this week and was like, listen, this is how much gas I have for this week for us, and this is how many miles I'm willing to put on my car right now. Today she seemingly forgot that again. I picked her up at 11 and I was with her until 2, and we went from her dad's house to, oh gosh, where did we go? Dad's house, her bank, her apartment, CMCC, her mom's house, back to CDCC, and back to her dad's house.
Was it just running around, or was there a
While
purpose
we were at
behind it?
CDCC, there was a purpose. She started classes in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and she had to get her student ID and take her math placement test. So that, to me, perfect example of a mental health skill building outing. I'm completely okay with that. Now, mind you, in her apartment where she lives, there's literally no furniture for me to sit on. So in order for me to go to her house and spend time with her one-on-one in her home, I'd have to sit in the floor
Mm-hmm.
or on her bed, and I have a no bed policy.
Yeah, that just raised too many
I
red
don't
flags.
care if you're an adult female, as am I will not sit on another grown woman's bed.
Or anybody's bed. It's just too.
It doesn't look appropriate. It's
No.
not appropriate. It's very inappropriate to sit on someone's bed in their home.
And it puts you in a precarious position where somebody can come back and be like, oh, she was in my bed.
Yeah. And there's no furniture because this individual doesn't work to make sure she has furniture in her home. She's been known to buy furniture or rent furniture, but then when she gets in a bind financially because she's impulsive and doesn't have the money to make the payments, the furniture goes back or she sells it. So I mentioned that to her last week. Hey, let's go to the office where I work out of. I don't actually have my own office, but there are several people in that office who are in and out throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I could use their office space. Done it before, keep doing it all the time. No, I'm not sitting in a damn office. That's her way of putting it. And I'm thinking, how are we going to work together if you're not willing to go somewhere and sit down instead of being in my car? My supervisor says, well, you can work with this individual while driving down the road. She needs to take her driver's test. You can have her talk about the signs that you see. You can quiz her on those. Ma'am, how am I supposed to do that when I'm supposed to be driving? I can glance at those signs. I can talk to you about them really quickly. But my goal in driving, especially with another passenger, is their safety.
Well, you're kind of limited too to do therapy in the car, honestly.
So my supervisor and I are different on this. The CEO of the company, however, is on my side, and she feels as if I'm being taken advantage of as a taxi driver.
I was going to say the same thing because I had an adult client at one point, an adult male, where all of our sessions pretty much we were running errands either to doctor's appointments, which were necessary, and we'd spend time in the doctor's office talking about things. Sometimes he didn't want to do sessions at home, so we'd go to like a coffee shop and work on stuff, but it was a lot in the car. And I had to spell out to him, I'm not going to be a taxi service. That's not what this service is. If it benefits your mental health or your physical health, then by all means, I'll help you out.
Exactly. I've taken her to doctor's appointments. She was supposed to have an eye appointment last Friday when I picked her up. And that was an interesting day. She got a puppy Thursday night while I was not around. This woman can barely take care of herself and her child, let alone a stinking puppy. Mm-hmm. Which by the way, the dog is a German Shepherd and Pit Bull mix. It's going to get huge.
It's going to be real big.
Yes. And so my thought on that was, you don't need a dog. You're never home. Mm-hmm. She stays at her dad's house a lot because she says she likes to be alone, but it seems that she doesn't really like to be alone unless she's in the right kind of mood. Mm-hmm.
So one thing I'm thinking about, you mentioned that she kind of functions as a 15-year-old, even though she's 22. Mm-hmm. Do you think that plays into it a little bit, that she wants to do all this driving around and riding around?
I mean, at 16, I wanted to go,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I was go, and in my own car.
Yeah.
With my own driver's license and my own gas money and things, or, money that I would earn for doing things at my dad's house or my grandma's house or whatever. I don't think anybody's really educated her on how much it costs to get a tank of gas. My car, great fuel economy, but around town, it's not so great because we're going from one end of town to the next, back to the other end of town, and back across. I mean, it's just.
Well, it can be stop and go, which isn't the best mileage on a car.
And it's hot outside, so the air conditioner's constantly blasting, either on 2 or 3, which, sucks up your gas. So.
Another question I had that I was thinking about, because you said, you struggle with her, you dislike things with her. Do you feel there's any transference or counter-transference going on to where maybe you are acting differently?
No, I'm really diligently on not allowing that to happen.
Good.
Although she did pick up on it last week.
What happened?
On Friday, because this dog got car sick in my vehicle.
Ooh, that's rough.
And I was pinching my leg the whole way back to her apartment so that I did not say things that I was not allowed to say before. Because instead of, so she's sitting in the passenger seat beside me, the puppy is facing my direction, which would mean he's facing the center console. When he starts to heave, I said, oh, he's getting ready to throw up. Instead of her turning him to face her legs, which she had on her dress, so my thought is, had this been me in someone else's vehicle, and my animal was getting ready to throw up, I have on something that can catch the vomit, I would turn my dog. And I would have preferred it get in my floorboard versus in between my seat where it went.
Ooh, that's rough.
It went in between the center console and her seat. Thankfully, it was semi-solid, so she could get most of it out. But after that, I had to cancel my next appointment to go home and scrub between the seats to get all of the dog vomit out. Mind you, I already did not feel like I could hold my own composure at that point and not throw up.
Yeah, being pregnant, I'm sure the smell was not helpful.
The smell wasn't bad, it's just knowing that there's a dog puke beside me. So I had the window open, the air conditioner full blast, and I was pinching my leg to focus on that instead of the dog puke.
But she picked up on it, but you said you didn't say anything?
I didn't actively say anything, but I think she was picking up on it because after she started cleaning it up is when she started to apologize. Prior to that, she didn't apologize at all. The rest of the 10-minute ride, she didn't seem to have any empathy for the situation. And I'm thinking, okay, your dog just vomited in my car. You should be a little bit more apologetic.
That's a tough situation to go through in your position because it's your car with her dog and her and the dog's vomit. That's a lot. So I give you credit for not saying anything or losing your cool. That's a lot of self-control and restraint you had to show there. But if that's the only time that she's really sensed it, it's good that you're being aware of it and trying not to.
I definitely make a point of doing some deep breathing and coping skills myself before I pick her up. Or I'll call a friend in the business and, just say, hey, I'm getting ready to deal with a difficult client. Like, let me just woosah with you on the phone for a few minutes. And then I go into it with a better mindset. Today was fine. I mean, today, we laughed, we got along. I felt like it was a more productive day, other than the extra running back and forth between places. But getting her on campus and actually interacting with her there in a learning environment made me feel good because I felt like I was helping her toward a goal instead of just helping her run to Walmart and Target and Taco Bell and wherever else she needed to go and back to her apartment to get clothes to go stay at her dad's house and wash laundry. Last week she cussed at me because my back seat was full and she didn't have anywhere to put her stuff, and I'm thinking, this is my car. I had things that I had to pick up before I came and got you. I actually had a changing table in my back seat for my sister. And she got mad and started cursing at me because of it. And thankfully I was not rude and I said, hey, look, I'm sorry that this frustrates you. I did not know that you had stuff that you had to bring with us today. I just picked this up. It was a spur of the moment thing. So this is what we've got to work with.
Well, that's good that you did that because then it allows her to kind of understand where you're coming from. but then it also builds an opportunity for you to say, if you need to go run errands or do something, we need to plan it ahead of time instead of you just dumping all of this on me at once, because then it does make you feel like a taxi.
So my direct supervisor doesn't really see the problem in it so much, but my CEO actually stepped in on my supervision this past week to catch up on another client that she and I shared together, and she was not okay with that. So she thinks having that discussion maybe together as a group would be a good plan in the future.
I think that's a good idea, because the client I had, he was higher functioning, so he was able to understand that if it didn't benefit his health in some way, we weren't going to do it. We're not just going to run from place to place to place, which is why he wanted to go out, but maybe we'd go, like I said, to a coffee shop and talk.
I've actually asked him, like, hey, can we go to the mall? That'd be fun. We can walk, get some exercise in, and, see the sights, but we can also have conversations. The problem with her is, too, that she stays glued to her cell phone.
Yeah.
I picked her up the other day, and she was on FaceTime for the first 20 minutes of the ride, and I only knew where we were supposed to go for the first 2 stops. So I'm just kind of sitting there and humming to myself, and then I finally, after she got off FaceTime, I was like, hey, maybe no FaceTime when we're in the car together. I understand you've got some people that are trying to talk to you and stuff, but right now this is our time.
Right.
We get a limited amount of time each week. Let's focus on our time.
How'd she take that?
She rolled her eyes, but she said okay.
Has it been an issue since then?
No, but she stays on her phone even more now with texting, Facebook Messenger, text messages, whatever. So that's just gonna be another conversation. Like I said, she has that mentality of a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, I'm 15, now I've got a phone, I've got to use it constantly.
Yeah.
My kid sister's 13, she does the same thing.
That'll be something difficult to kind of work through, but if you can kind of connect in some way or get through to her in some way with that, that would be good. Something I was thinking about, you said she's starting classes at CVCC in the
They're
fall.
all online.
All online, okay.
She doesn't have time to do classes on campus because she works 5 to 3.
So is there any time that she's going to be on campus?
Well, she didn't do so hot on her math placement. We go on Friday morning to meet with her counselor on campus, her advisor. So she may have a class that she has to attend on campus. Now, I'm not going to offer my services up of, I'll pick you up from work and take you to class every week, because that's not necessarily going to benefit me and my other clients.
Right.
Because taking her to class means it's just the drive from her work to the school and dropping her off.
Right.
I'm sitting around waiting for her class to end to take her home. There's nothing therapeutic. I can't bill
15 minutes or whatever.
I can bill the 15 minutes that she's in my car and the 15 minutes after, but a 30-minute session is not worth anything.
Well, and the job that you're in, they won't.
Billing wise, it has to be 45 minutes or more.
Yeah, they're not going to reimburse you a session that's a half hour for driving.
Yeah. So
the only reason I mentioned that is because if she does have a class and she's been on campus and you were able to talk to her a bit there, I figured maybe while she's on campus, you could spend that time talking, going over things.
I had a client that went to CVCC, and she drove herself to and from class, but she had an earlier class, and then she had a lull, and then she had another class. So in between classes, I would meet her on campus.
Perfect.
That was fantastic. I loved it. Meeting her on campus, getting to see who she's involved with there, working on schoolwork with her, setting up her planner for the week, for her goals, and for her homework assignments for the week was great. Because it was her goal, this was a more of a life skills client that I've been working with. And so I was teaching her how to plan out for her homework assignments for every week and stay on top of those, which was fantastic, which I think would benefit this person too, the one that I have now, but I don't see her being willing to budge on that kind of thing. So I made it kind of known that if my client base picks up otherwise, then I don't see me continuing long term with this individual. I have a family that actually called and requested me from Appomattox. I've worked with the mom before. You and I have talked about her before in working together previously. Adult mom with 2 kids that live in Appomattox.
Oh, yeah.
She's a great person to work with. She's very stubborn. So trying to break her of some of her bad habits was difficult.
Will you be working with her or the family?
Well, she wants me to work with her individually, but she also needs somebody for one of her sons who is at risk of being removed So I'm hoping to get my company to agree that I can work with both. So my thought process would be 3 days a week at minimum. Pick the kids up from school and have some alone time with, not alone time, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like some one-on-one time with the kiddo
Mm-hmm.
and his brother. Because I would include his brother because that's where a lot of the issues come into play. Where one-on-one with the boy and then introduce his brother in the later half of the session. And, you know, just build on that positive relationship that they need to work on. And then when mom gets home at 5, do a one-on-one with mom, 5 to 6, and the boys would be in agreement that, you know, in an understanding that, hey, I've got 2 hours with you guys. When mom gets home, it's just the two of us. You guys are going to have homework to work on, chores that you've got to work on. Get those done in the hour that I'm with mom while she's cooking dinner. And then when I leave at 6, you guys are great. You guys have dinner. Mom's here. Her boyfriend will be home by then from work. And we can, you know, that's a guaranteed 9 hours a week if I'm there 3 times a week.
And it would work out as long as you can ensure the confidentiality.
Yeah.
I don't see why that would be a big issue. I mean, in this field, you've worked with families before where you work with multiple kids from the same home or the entire family before. So
and then I've got one kiddo that we talked about last time. The family's just very dysfunctional. Still super dysfunctional. There's no real boundaries, and they're all completely just enmeshed with each other. Mom has been known to let the kids stay home just because they don't feel like it. And the truancy issue, well, mom has kind of figured out her way around the truancy issue this year for my kid in particular. She's planning on homeschooling the kid. Mom has a high school diploma. She did finish school. She's not, I don't see how she is equipped to teach her child 8th grade anything.
Is there certain requirements for the state to do homeschooling?
For homeschooling, she basically just has to prove that she has a high school diploma and show the curriculum to the school board to say that she can do it, and then we'll get approved. I've actually talked one-on-one with a guy with the school board. He called me to see what my opinion was because mom took the liberty of telling him that I was all on board for them being homeschooled for this kid, and it's just for the one. They had truancy issues for all 3 of the children, but the majority of the problem was my kiddo. And I told him, I'm like, sir, I never once said that I'm all on board for this. I understand why she thinks this could be a good idea, but I do not agree that this is a good idea because this kid is already socially awkward. We go to the park even now in the dead of summer, and she's wearing a long sleeve black hoodie, long pants, and black shoes. And I'm like, dude, it's too hot out here. You're going to pass out on me for heat stroke. And I won't do it. I don't want to go. I tell her constantly, listen, I'm not going with you to the park today if this is how you're going to go over there. I'm sweating to death in a t-shirt and, you know, running shorts and, or, you know, leggings or, you know, capris or whatever. I don't know how you're going to breathe in a hoodie.
You guys have those boundaries because you don't want other issues coming up.
And this kid like pass out and I can't lift her big butt up. She's not that big, but I'm not able to lift her.
No, well, I mean, again, you're pregnant. Yeah, you're pregnant. You're limited regardless.
I have to call 911 and just wait. I could probably roll her over to the shaded part if there was any, but that's about it. And then the dysfunction just continues where mom and dad argue in front of the kids a lot, which there are houses that do that. I grew up in a house that my parents argued a lot. It made me, in a different way, it made me look at relationships to the point where I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that kind of relationship. On the reverse, most of the time, kiddos who are brought up in those environments continue that cycle.
They do.
They don't try to break the cycle, they continue it. And this kid, I have a feeling, is going to continue the cycle. And her being homeschooled, my plan, and please interject if you think this is a negative idea, I think I did get some feedback from the case manager, and she agrees that this is a good plan. I want to arrive an hour before they start school day. They want to start at 11 o'clock every day and finish by 5. And I'm thinking that's probably not going to work for you guys because everybody else is going to be home from school by 3 o'clock. And when everybody else gets home at 3, the house is going to go into chaos again because mom's going to want to start cooking dinner. Mom's going to want to talk to the other kids about their day or deal with their hours of not being able to focus on the homeschooling work. So I will slowly, after this process starts, work toward explaining that and hopefully shifting them to a better schedule.
Mhm.
But I guess I see that they want to get up and get the other kids off to school and then go back to sleep for a little while. But mom has been known to forget to set her alarm or
Yep.
set it wrong.
That's what you had mentioned, that she'll
So-
miss her alarms and the kids
I mean,
will
even
sleep.
now, the kids are in summer camp, summer program.
Mhm.
Today, for example, I was supposed to be there right now until 8 o'clock. And yeah, till 8 o'clock, so I would have almost been done.
Mhm.
And they got sunburned and they were tired and didn't want to do anything this afternoon. Suck it up, Buttercup. I don't want to be at your house every afternoon.
Right.
And your cluttered, nasty house, but I do it and I don't go in there and I'm not rude about it. And I don't cancel on you just because I don't feel like being in your house today. So I've kind of tried to set that example and set that tone of, listen, I get it, you guys are going to be tired on days that I'm supposed to be here,
Mhm.
and you're not going to feel like seeing me, but this is the idea behind these services. You ask for these services. You want them, you feel like they're working for you guys. Like, let's find a way to make this work. So my summer plan,
Okay.
they want to start at 11, so I told them I will get there at 10. They didn't really care for that idea so much. You could see it on their faces because they didn't want to get up until 11, which means they probably wouldn't get started until 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So my plan, and I told them this, and I guess they semi-agreed. I'll get there at 10 for an hour before the schooling starts and stay for an hour or two once the schooling is going on. Now, I cannot help teach the child because that's not in her treatment plan.
Mhm.
If we change her treatment plan to fit the goal of, helping the family stick to a schedule with schooling and adhere to the homeschooling routine,
Mhm.
then I could help to a certain degree.
Right. You can be more involved in it.
Yeah, I can be like, okay, hey, look, you've been working on this for 45 minutes. Let's take a break from that and switch to another subject.
Mhm.
Something along those lines. But I can't actually sit there and say 1 + 1 is 2 kind of deal.
Right.
I can't teach your child.
You're not the
math.
teacher.
I'm not going to be teaching your child her English,
Right.
which I should be because comparatively I would do a lot better.
But that's not your job.
It's not. So what do you think of that kind of schedule?
It's a good start. Obviously, there's concerns about their schedule.
Mhm.
The way I'm looking at it, and it might not be what their plan is, it might be, I don't know. There's truancy issues already. You said that they want to sleep in, they sleep in constantly. In a way, it's almost rewarding this kid that you've had truancy issues, you aren't going to school, you're not getting up on time, so we're going to take you out of school and you get to start at 11 while the others still have to go in early at the regular time. I feel like it will too. There might be anger or resentment, or they're gonna start not getting up. They might have truancy issues.
Will start up for them pretty quickly, and the school board is already, keeping an eye on this family because of how many absences they had last year.
So I might be very black and white with mom about that. I don't know how she would respond to it, but
She does pretty well with me. I can be pretty honest with her. I feel like I've worked with them long enough.
so I would almost address that with her and say, put yourself in these kids' shoes. One of your siblings has had truancy issues, at risk of getting in a lot of trouble. So you
Now,
think about
she
it,
did offer to let the other two be homeschooled as well,
and they didn't.
but they chose not to.
Okay.
Both of them want to go to school this year.
Okay.
The younger sister was at an alternative school,
Mhm.
and this year she's really excited to going back to public school.
Well, that's good.
So I think she will do okay in
Mhm.
the beginning. I think once we hit that Christmas break mark is where it's going to fall apart.
It might even be fall break, whenever that is in October.
Mhm.
But there's concerns, obviously, I have with that. You getting there earlier, I think, is good because it forces them to get in that routine.
Started.
Is that something you will do every day with them,
It's not
or?
going to be every day
Mhm.
because she's supposed to have somebody doing the family counseling piece, but the counselor that was doing it is unable to meet their need every week or every 2 weeks because this counselor is super, super busy. She's
Mhm.
actually the CEO of the company. She stays busy. She
Oh.
works more hours than any man that ever lived in
I didn't know that she was the one that was.
She is or was.
Okay.
They haven't had family counseling for a while, so I don't know how they're going to handle that if they get audited on that case. But it's out of my hands because I keep reminding them, hey, somebody needs to go go in his house and do the family piece. Whatever, I can't do it, not a problem.
Right.
I'm just gonna keep working until they tell me I can.
It-
But
It's not a bad plan. Definitely. I don't really see a better plan unless they agree to start school at like 9 instead of
and I
11.
think the other kids will leave by 7:30.
Mhm.
So that would give them 3.5 hours to lay there and be lazy and go back to sleep. And I noticed that this summer too.
Mhm.
I will, on days when they didn't have summer camp, they didn't have summer camp the whole week of the 4th of July, right?
Yep.
So other than the 4th of July, I worked the rest of the week. And so I was like, hey, I can come over at like 10 or 11, it'd be great. No, that's probably still too early. Can you come at like 2? 2? Are you kidding me? Thank God for one of my other families, honestly, because the mom just had surgery, so she's home all day right now. She had gastric bypass surgery, so she's still in recovery from all of that. She'll be out total for like a month and a half, which is perfect because that means she's home. I
Mhm.
get to do some stuff with the family together.
Right.
I get to do something with my kids by themselves.
Granted, you wouldn't want her to have the surgery, but
Yeah, but I mean, it
the
was
situation works out to where you can.
It was an elective surgery. She chose to do it.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So she, her being home means I'm not waiting until 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes 7, for her to get home from her job to be able to talk to her about stuff that I'm seeing in the home.
Mhm.
I'm able to do it in the moment, which has been fantastic. Now this kid, my supervisor has said is only going to be approved through the end of September.
This kid that's going to do the homeschooling.
No,
Okay.
the other.
Oh, the one that.
The mom is home during the summer. The one that's doing the homeschooling, it's looking like they've got her estimated to discharge would be sometime next year in like April.
Okay.
Which is perfectly fine, especially with her moving to a homeschooling situation. That's great for me because then I can do daytime hours with her, and that's something I so desperately need.
It'll help with
moving
your
into the
schedule.
future. Starting in March,
Mhm.
if I don't find another type of job that's a 9 to 5, I need daytime hours. My husband works second shift, and I need somewhere to go.
But you're due.
January.
Yes. So you might even come January might not even still be with them because you'll take the maternity leave, obviously, and then take what you need
I won't
to.
take maternity leave until after the baby's born, unless for some unknown reason I get put on bed rest.
And that's what I mean. Come January when the baby's born, you'll take some time off.
I'll take at least 6 weeks, and thankfully my husband has 4 weeks of paid leave from
Mhm.
his job. Can't afford for a baby off for 6 weeks. So we're saving money now. But this is why I'm trying to up my hours too and get the
Yeah.
client in mathematics and just like bust till like get as many hours as I can between now and then, so that when the time comes, I can kind of pull back a little bit. I have family and stuff that can pick the kiddo up from daycare if I need them to, but I'm trying to work my schedule so that's maybe maximum 3 days a week. So if I have the mathematics client and I'm going out there Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday,
Mhm.
my sister's off on Thursdays, and she lives in Concord. I can swing by, drop the kiddo off for the 3 hours that I'm going to be in my session,
Mhm.
3.5 to give me drop time, and then come back by after I'm done and pick my kid up and go home.
The only reason I mention it is just, if the kid's gonna need care.
Yeah.
Up until that point, obviously when it gets closer, you'll have to think of some sort of transition or some sort of plan for them. But that's still down the road a bit.
But that's a definite thing on my mind.
Yeah.
Almost constantly, I think about it daily.
I'm sure you do.
Because as well as I do in this job, in home and mental health skill building, somewhat the mental health skill building, if the client doesn't work, it's kind of a great thing.
Mhm.
Not necessarily for them, for their finances, but if they draw unemployment or social security or disability, and they can afford to live that way, that's great. Then you can do daytime hours. But when you have clients who work during the day, like the one who wants me as a taxi driver,
Mhm.
she doesn't get off until 3.
Yeah. And then you have to fit 4 or 5 clients who have intensive needs in
the afternoon.
a 3, 4, 5 hour window every day. And that kind of handcuffs you.
So my goal, starting in probably late November,
Mhm.
is to work with my company on transitioning me more to mostly mental health skill building. I can still have the intensive at home with the one family that's going to be homeschooling. It's great. That's daytime hours. I have another adult client who lives in Brookfield. Her work schedule sometimes hinders us from doing daytime hours
Mhm.
early in the day, but most of the time we can meet up by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at the latest. I can do a 3-hour session from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
And be done in time to go pick the kiddo up from daycare.
Perfect.
But, I do have a backup plan in place with my family. They've both said, my mom and my dad have said, hey, if you need us, we can pick up. They do it for my niece all the time, actually. So yeah, that's kind of the future plan right now. Trying really hard to stay focused on potentially finding something different for myself in the future. I think we might have talked about this one.
We have, yeah.
That I don't see me making this my career choice for the rest of my life. My direct supervisor actually has told me that she would very much after the baby comes, like me to go back to school and get my master's.
But you feel like this isn't
to become licensed and
Yep.
all that, but I just
this isn't exactly what you want
I'm
to
not
do.
going back to school. I'm not getting more student loan debt. As much as I love Liberty, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. It can be pricey
I
for
do
sure.
miss going back. Like I do miss school, but do I want to be a full-time work parent? I'll be working full-time, going to school, and be a parent? Absolutely not.
Well, we've talked about you have a degree now in an unrelated field.
Yeah.
So you'd even like to have a job in, the medical field doing coding or billing or whatever. That's a 9 to 5, 8 to 4 type of thing, Monday through Friday.
It's definitely an option in the future. I'm actually looking into becoming certified in that field so that my credentials will look better. CMA instead of just a medical assistant.
Right.
Certified. I think it's just a matter of finding a company that's willing to hire somebody fresh off the boat almost.
And I feel like there are some because I'm not.
Honestly,
none of them.
I may contact my general practitioner and be like, listen, you guys, I need the experience. I'm a good patient here. I've been coming here for years. If you guys have an opening, let me know. I'd love to apply and see what happens and go from there. Or just even something non-related to that. If I can find something that pays comfortable, I'll take it and work my butt off to make sure that my kid is taken care of. My husband works hard, but
I know. I've seen your work in the counseling field and the people you work with. You do good work. You do great work. But I know it's not something that you're fully wanting to make a career out of.
This for the rest of my life in any way, shape, or form, because I know I have to go back to school. My direct supervisor was saying that QMHPC is not really going to get me very far in this field, and it's basically going to become obsolete in the future.
Down the road, I don't know the exact date, but it will. So just hypothetically, if you didn't have to go back and get your master's, is it something you'd stick with, or is it just because the additional schooling is what's keeping you from?
If I could, without having to go back to school, if I could make it a 9 to 5 type of job, with the occasional afternoon or evening where somebody else had to pick my kid up, I would probably stick with it. I mean, I like helping people. I really enjoy spending time with other people and helping them through their problems. But then on the flip side of that, knowing that I'm getting ready to become a parent in 6 months or less, I don't want to have to care about other people constantly. Yeah. I want to come home from work and put my phone down, and unless it's a family or a friend, I don't want to answer my phone. Yeah. As you know, working in this field, I'm basically on call 24/7. That's why I have a work phone. Yeah.
The community-based counseling with the high-intensive clients can be difficult because
I've had phone calls at 11 o'clock at night and then had to spend the whole night in the hospital waiting for them to get, admitted to crisis and things of that nature. And when I have a child, I don't see that as my future.
So I kind of talked about it with your adult client. Do you think that's affecting any of your work in any way, or do you think it's more of just a personal thing that's going on with you? Like, do you feel like it's reflective in how you're working with clients or scheduling clients or anything, or is it just more of a personal feeling you have that you're kind of working towards finding something else?
I think it's just a personal feeling. The way I schedule people right now is just to get the maximum hours that I can every week. I get frustrated when people cancel on me because I need that financial support at my job. I mean, I make a decent amount every hour, but when people cancel and I'm not meeting the need of like the 30 hours a week, my pay is reflective, and it's becoming a burden on my family. Like my husband and I are dealing with financial struggles because my clients are constantly canceling. Just last week, my adult client lives in Brookfield. She canceled twice on me, and it's because she was getting her monthly. And I'm like, dude, that's not an excuse. during your sessions, you wouldn't be able to call it work just because you have cramps and you're irritable. I mean, I've had cramps before with you, and I've been irritable with you, and I pushed through. Just like today, I threw up from the smell in her house, and I pushed through, and we had a short session, but nevertheless, we had a session, and I worked with her on making sure her med box was taken care of. Oh, speaking of that, we haven't had a chance to talk about that yet. The med box that I was supposed to be in charge of the key.
Yeah, the one that we weren't sure of.
Yes. So we came up with a plan that there is a hidden key at her house.
Okay.
So we're either inside or outside that she would not necessarily look in. I've had to have her use it one time because she had to cancel. She got called into work that afternoon, and she needed to refill her med box that weekend.
Okay.
So the only option we had, other than me working on Saturday, which was not happening, was for her to find the key. So I actually hid it. One of the last times I was at her house, I hid it in her utility box, the breaker box.
Oh yeah.
In the very bottom, there was almost like a little cubby. It was like somebody didn't put it in right or left some space.
Sometimes they leave it for like extra fuses and such in those spots.
So I left the key in there, and she doesn't go in there unless I went out, and she would not have seen it. So I haven't replaced it yet, but I'm going back in that area tomorrow. So I'm going to put the key back in that hidden spot. Most likely inside, just because outside is too much of a risk of someone else coming across it by accident and kicking it or it blowing away in the wind or something.
Right.
She has a lot of boxes on her stairwell that don't lead anywhere. It was a 2-story house that was converted into a duplex, so it's boarded up at the top of the stairs. But there were so many boxes up there. I feel like if I slotted under one of those boxes, she'll never find it. She says she's going to go through those boxes, and I've been working with her for like 6 months now. She's never touched one of those boxes. So I think that was the best compromise that we could come up with.
And it takes the responsibility for a lot of responsibility off of you, so that you're not.
It was very helpful that day that she had to cancel, that I didn't have to jump in the car, fly out to her birth meal, cancel my sessions, and get out there and open up her med box for her.
Well, and personally, it makes me feel better that you don't have that burden or that responsibility.
You both.
So I'm glad we were able to get that worked out. But there is definitely a lot going on with your clients. The newer one, you have the adult. That one seems like it's going to be a bit of a, not struggle, but difficulty, because she's lower functioning. It's a new client. She's gone through a lot of counselors.
She's quick to fire a counselor too and complain about them. Apparently, according to the CEO, I'm the first counselor she's had that hasn't had a negative complaint.
Well, that's good.
Which is good because that means she's really not picking up on my mood sometimes, which is great.
But she's that gives an opportunity to keep building that rapport and possibly help her get to a point that she can maybe follow some of the expectations a bit of you're not a taxi, not on her phone as much, maybe work with her a little bit more on things. So there's potential there. It's gonna need some patience and more reinforcements.
She and I can get to a point where we either go on campus maybe where she goes to school and spend some time in the library, which could be helpful for her for research, what have you, using their computer, which is something we did today, and I felt like it was a good progress, like we were making progress. And I want to have this conversation with her, and then every other Friday, we use the session to go pick up her little boy, or she makes doctor's appointments during those time frames because I've gone several appointments with her now. That I feel like we could make this work, this working relationship work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I do not see this being a long-term client of mine, just because the expectation of hers is to run errands.
Right, you're a taxi, and that's not
I'm
your job.
I'm a glorified Uber.
Yeah, and that's not your job.
She's made it known before, actually, that Uber from her apartment to her job costs $16 or $17. And I'm thinking,
right, and you're free.
Like $4 or $5 more than that.
Right.
But I'm driving you all over the place, not just to and from work.
Yeah.
So.
And then obviously the kid who's going to be homeschooled. I've talked about just the concern I have about them starting late, and you've talked about it too.
Yeah.
So if you can work with mom on maybe trying to get her to understand how it could be perceived by the other kids, or how it could be seen as a reward. My kid's not going to school, so I'm going to take him out of school and let him sleep in.
Yeah.
So if we could get working towards an earlier start, a more realistic start, or equal start to school, I think it's good that you're going in earlier.
Yeah.
because maybe that will start to help. Because then maybe they'll start at 10, and then you show up at 9, potentially.
Yeah.
And maybe they start at 9 now. It could be beneficial in that way. I'd like to see them start earlier, but you getting there at 10 could definitely help.
Then hopefully the goal would be that they actually start by 11.
Yes.
I mean, realistically, she's going to have maybe 4 subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So if she puts forth the effort that is necessary, she can finish by the time everybody else comes home.
And I would stress too that you don't want the child to fall behind. And if you're not giving the child ample time to learn the material, to do the work, your kid could severely fall behind, and your good intention, or what seems like a good intention, can actually hurt in the long run.
I mean, the kid even told me the other day, she's like, hey, Holly, on days when I'm not feeling well, I could, sleep a little bit later and start a little bit later, or, if I start working on schoolwork and then I start to not feel well, I could take a nap and then get back to my schoolwork. And I'm like, well, I definitely see where you're coming from, and I see why you think that'd be a good idea. But how do you think you're going to actually be able to get back to work if you're not feeling well? Shouldn't you kind of just push through, get it done first day, and then take the rest of the day to focus on healing and feeling better? Because there are going to be days that she's going to get sick. It happens.
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to come home with the flu, and then the whole family's going to be sick. Nobody's going to want to do their schoolwork with the flu. But just like online learning, if you and I, when I was in school doing online learning, when you're doing online stuff, you're sick. Too bad.
Yep.
You're home. You have hours and hours and hours on end of nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
You can be sitting at home in your PJs doing your schoolwork. Same as this homeschool kid. I actually worked with a family that was homeschooling. I would go in the house an hour before she would start her schoolwork. Mom would allow her to do her schoolwork for an hour and a half while I'm there, and then we would take the last half hour to work on something, just the two of us, and then she'd get right back to schoolwork. That was her lunch break. Is the way we would set that up. Is during her lunch break we had the 30 minutes to talk and chat and discuss our goals and our triumphs and all of that, and then she'd get right back to schoolwork.
Well,
that was a successful
homeschooling
situation. So I'm hoping to bring that example.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm not going to use why she's homeschooled or the mom's name or anything, confidential. But I am going to use that as an example of, listen, I've seen how homeschooling can work.
Yeah.
Heck, I'm interested in possibly homeschooling my kid one day. Because then I get to spend that one-on-one time with my child and bond with them. But at the same time, I understand that social aspect is so necessary.
Mm-hmm. And you want to set them up for success outside of school. That's the purpose of school, is to make them successful, functional adults in society through social interactions.
Keeping her home all the time and meshing even further into this crazy dynamic that they have, where mom has a favorite and it's obvious, and then the other kids are fighting for that position. I don't see how she's going to be a successful adult.
So obviously there's concerns with it, but if you can at least get the homeschooling on a stable schedule, a more realistic schedule, and you'll see some of it if she's doing the appropriate teaching while you're there, then great. If it's not, if you see it's going downhill, it's not working out.
Oh, I'll be quick to call the school board.
Yeah, you'll have to intervene if it's not.
Yeah. I already asked you at the school board. He said, Holly, if you're going to be in the home during some of this, please, if you see that there's a problem, please address it right then. And if it continues to be a problem, you have to reach out to us because we want this child to succeed.
Absolutely.
This kid loves to read. I take her to the library at least once a week to get new books because she goes through 3 or 4 books a week right now, even during the summer. So
that's great.
Going on is she stays up all night reading, so now she's tired and doesn't want to do sessions. Maybe I should stop taking her to the library.
No, I think the library's good.
We sit at a table and work on things while we're in the library and away from her home life. Because her home life is so insanely crazy that she can't focus. Now during the cooler months, it was great. We would go take walks, we'd sit outside, we would color on the sidewalk with chalk. I have some in my car, and it was fantastic. During the summer, no, you will not find me outside doing that.
It's too hot.
It is.
So we're gonna start wrapping up this. Is there anything other that you wanted to touch on with any of your clients? Those are the two big things that I had just from what you talked about, is your new client getting that hopefully those boundaries set a little more firm, and then the homeschool kid make sure that that is actually being done properly.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Those are my big concerns right now.
Okay. Well, that's all I've got. I hope that I helped you through some of those or some of those ideas. So.
I actually like talking to you better than I
Well,
I
that's
get
good.
straightforward answers. It's not let's bounce around the idea and think about theoretical blah 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 of everything. You and I have always worked like this where
Mhm.
I tell you what's going on and you give me feedback and give me suggestions. Whereas in my personal supervisions right now, she knows so much
Yeah.
that it almost is condescending during supervision. And I told her that recently. She's like,
Oh.
you need to be more clinical in your supervisions. I need to know how you're feeling. Well, here you go. I feel like you're so stinking smart that nothing I say is gonna.
How'd she take that?
She's like, well, I mean, I do know a lot, but I'm not that smart, and I don't want you to feel like I'm, making you, I'm not putting you down for not knowing how to do X, Y, Z. You haven't had a lot of training in the past, which is accurate.
Mhm.
I haven't had the best supervisory training before.
But maybe she could do more guiding with you instead of.
Her big focus now is on the clinical side of my supervision, and I'm like, what do you want me to do and be more clinical with you? I'm telling you exactly what is going on with these cases, and I'm listening to your suggestions, and I'm taking some of them. Some of her methods are a little bit rash. She wants you to go in and.
Well, she was the one that suggested you hold on to that key for that client.
Yeah. And, there's another kiddo that we didn't even talk about who's doing semi-okay right now-ish.
Marley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ish. She's doing some sexual things.
We've talked about Marley a number of times, though.
But, her idea is, I need to go in and tell mom this is what she needs to do in her home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell a grown woman how to raise her family. I can make suggestions, be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Maybe this would work better.
Right.
But my supervisor basically wants me to go in there and be like blazing guns and say, you need to change X, Y, Z.
Well, knowing that case and us talked about before, that authoritative and dictatorial spot might not be the best. The suggestions
this
work.
This mom works her butt off to raise these kids that aren't even hers in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in a lot of stress at work, and her personal life sucks because of her job and her kids. I'm not going into that home and barking orders. Now, I have enough rapport with this family. I'm really close with them to where I can be honest with mom. But then it's up to the mom to make those decisions. She doesn't have to listen to me. My supervisor feels otherwise.
Well, when it comes to our supervision, I try to give feedback and ideas. They may not always be the best, but I like to try and give some of that guidance for you, because you're not doing anything wrong. You just need maybe some ideas or suggestions.
She wants me to switch from a more supportive role to a more, I don't know what she said, more
direct or authoritarian, or
I feel like she wants me to be like Hitler.
Maybe a confrontational role, maybe.
I think so, and you've known me for quite some time. I am not the confrontational type.
No.
Even
you can do it.
I can, but I tend to lean more towards the supportive role because that's who I am.
I think with this new adult that you have, the confrontational, more direct is what you're going to need. I mean, you got the support with her. She hasn't had complaints, and you're still kind of in that rapport building. But being a little more direct with her can be beneficial.
It worked really well when I told her, hey, we're not going to all these places.
Perfect.
3 to 4 places max. But then she cut the session short.
Yeah.
Instead of a full 3, we only got like 2 to 2.5 hours.
But that may be that she realizes she doesn't want to put forth the effort. Yeah. And if she's not going to put forth the effort.
Having that conversation with the other counselor that works with her, my CEO, I think that would be beneficial to kind of, she takes the authoritative role.
Yeah.
Because that's who she is. She just has that she carries herself that way with everybody.
Well, she has to as being a CEO as well.
She has no choice.
Right.
And she's great at it, and everybody loves her that works with her. So I think having that joint meeting could kind of steer us in the right direction, or make that final cut of, okay, this just isn't for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll be useful. Well, if there's anything else that comes up, anything else that you have questions about, feel free to reach out, obviously. Definitely. I know that you've got a number of different people giving you suggestions and feedback, so if anything else comes up, we'll go over it, but otherwise, we're pretty much finished for today.
Yeah.
All right.